Are you in the pub? He's here. He's here. Yeah, right. Oh, you didn't have the tash. You said.
I didn't. So when you contacted me, I'd just shaved off.
Very nice.
Well, thank you. Not as magnificent as yours. It's my attempt.
Yours is like, what's that, the guy out of Annie?
Daddy Warbucks?
No. Miss Hannigan's kind of like...
I've not seen Annie for a
you
while.
know, and they do that dance, don't they? He's a string. And he's like, it's kind of like got the thinnest kind of moustache, but it's so on point. Yeah, but it's
only natural that you'd be more of a musical man than me. No, when you contacted me, I was doing a play set in the 70s.
Yeah.
So I had a 70s tash, and
dirty.
It was too dirty to walk around with on a day-to-day street level.
Wow.
Whereas I'm doing a rehearsing a play now that's set in the 30s, and this is a bit more under. It's not as heavy. There's not as much weightlifting on the top lip.
Cool. So Enzo Cilenti.
The amount of people who don't pronounce it correctly.
Ch. The Italians pronounce the C's ch, like Ciampino. Welcome, or Vincenzo Lena. Cilenti. Should we do it?
Well,
should we
yeah.
go 3?
Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
Rule of threes. Thank you very much.
Massive thank you for coming down to the King's Cross pub. This is like one of them stopping points, you know, because I fly from Heathrow. It's cheaper.
Yeah.
Bradford, lad. If it's cheaper, I'm going down, not Megabus, and I'll get down there and it's cheaper flight. So I've started to do that. You save yourself 300 quid. Well, you save yourself 300 quid, you get some good points going from Heathrow, and this is like your kind of half time. On the way home when you got jet lag, you see.
Oh, do you?
So you do the tube. That's an hour, isn't it? That's a tough shift.
Do you actually stop here on the way back up?
No, but I kind of do it in one go. So I'll go tube, get in here, have a bit of breakfast, sink a few pints, and get the train. Absolutely. So Enzo, thank you so much for doing this. This episode is actually sponsored by Yorkshire Brightside Developments. It's a small world because they're eco-friendly houses, right, and homes. And do you know what? They're going to be doing some great. Ross, do you know Ross? I've heard you know Ross.
Yeah, I do.
I didn't know you knew Ross until kind of this.
Did you not know that?
I've only just found out like in the last 2 hours, so this is weird.
Is that true?
Ross is a very cool guy, so yeah.
Ross is a great guy.
So, yeah.
Ross is a great guy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very awkward position you put me in, since he's also my brother-in-law.
Yeah. But small world anyway.
It's
small world.
No, yeah. I have to say, my sister is very, very fortunate to find. I do really, genuinely, really, really like him. He's a great dad. And a great husband, I have to say that, genuinely.
And we're in the Parcel Yard. This is the Parcel Yard first class room. Not like first class, you know, like first class when you go to kind of really swanky first class. It's more like old school first class. This is what it used to be like.
Right.
1865, this place. Well, the station itself. Did you know, it's ridiculous.
I do like it. It's my gateway back to Bradford.
And when did you reside kind of to London? Because you did live in America, didn't you, as well?
Yeah, so I went to university and studying French and Spanish. I mean, I'd done drama at school, loads, and was sort of always into it. And then I sort of pressured by school not to do that and to kind of do a normal degree, if you like, and go to sort of like the best university you possibly could, you know, ostensibly to reflect well on the school, I think. So I did that, and then sort of, you know, I did all right, but my course really wasn't resonating with me. And the great thing about doing I was sort of lucky, because I did a languages degree. I got a year abroad, a year off. And just before that, I was sat with a really, really close friend of mine from school. We're at the Old Barn, which I think is which is the unofficial Bradford Grammar School underage drinking pub.
The Barn.
The Barn.
Yeah, because my dad used to be the caretaker at the Bradford Grammar School.
Did you? I didn't know that.
We're connecting the dots, so it's getting really... Wow. There's more dots connected here.
That's amazing.
It's like...
So you know, and...
Yeah, yeah.
God, I mean, they were a miserable bunch, considering how much...
14 I started drinking that.
Yeah, I'd say that was about right.
It's shut down now, so I'm not bothered.
Well, no, they were really miserable, because...
That upstairs bit, wasn't there? Like a crib,
They could hide us at the top, and I'm sure the police were very happy that all the lads from that school were in a very safe... Well, we're never going to get any bother. We're never going to get our heads kicked in by the lads from St Bede's. You know, because
we don't fight. Better at football than you.
Yeah.
You just rugby and cricket, yeah.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But I remember we were a bit scared to go too far up M Lane just in case.
We didn't. We were in high school. We were Catholics. Italian, Polish Catholic.
Italian, Polish Catholics, the very best kind. I remember he sat there at the start of that, and my mate, and he was about to go on a year abroad as well, so in the middle of his studies, he went, how come you're not doing any acting? I was like, oh, I don't know. And then that just sort of that kind of question sat with me throughout the year abroad, and I came back and was like, you know what, I think I will do fancy pursuing that, because I wasn't massive into my degree, because it was very traditional, and then that led me, I did the obvious thing, auditioned for drama school, and all the ones worth going to down here in London. Right. Most of my friends from school were London bound anyway, so there was a bit of momentum, and then I've been here ever since, apart from a 6.5 year sabbatical in Los Angeles, which I enjoyed very much, but was not the most successful.
Which area?
We moved into, do you know Los Angeles?
Yeah, the band's manager lives in Pasadena.
Pasadena. First gig I went to see, the Pasadenas.
Really?
Yeah, they were at St George's Hall. I was a big Pasadenas fan. Lived in Hollywood near the Bowl. In a place called Whitley Heights, which I think was the precursor to Hollywoodland, because Hollywoodland was essentially a housing development. And the guy who made Hollywoodland was encouraged to do so by his friend who was a developer who'd made this little mini version called Whitley Heights. So we were there, and then we moved to Sherman Oaks in the valley.
Oh, it's nice up there, isn't it?
Well, everyone I met who was American and
mountain lions up there, don't you?
In the hills, yeah, and
mental.
Everyone who I'd met in LA who you sort of say, oh, so where are you from? And they'd be like, I'm actually from LA. Like, no one's from LA. I went, no, I'm from LA. And I'd say whereabouts, and everyone who's from LA would be either from Sherman Oaks, Studio City, or Van Nuys. So I was like, if that's kind of bona fide, not Beverly Hills, not kind of tinselly, so that's where I want to be. I want to move to Sherman Oaks, where it's kind of super hot, super valley, and if you think Karate Kid is set in Encino.
Yeah, right.
So it's just a couple down from, a couple of sort of like little a couple miles from there, really. To live there, it was great.
It's different, isn't it? How do you describe the people? Like, I've obviously been loads of times.
Well, how much are you there? You're there a lot, right?
Put it this way, I've done every single state apart from 2.
Wow.
So it's like, my girlfriend's in Denver, so you see, but every single state is like a different country, and I keep repeating that, and it's so hard to explain to people, but it is. I don't know how much America you've seen.
Nowhere near as much as you.
But LA is incredible, isn't it?
Like, the 5 is at its case in point. You just go up the 5, and like within half an hour, you're like this, it's not LA anymore.
It's just like, whoa.
It's so intense. It's so intense. It's so about, on the whole, about one business, and then you get out so quickly, and it sort of feels like the sticks. It's a nuts country, and you sort of. Let's not even go where we are in this country, but where you sort of see Trump happening and all that, and that was one of the biggest shockers to me, because you think Southern California, it's kind of quite progressive, it's kind of quite left of centre. It just isn't. So here, I think in this country, it's quite easy to gauge. You meet someone new, and you probably have a fairly high chance of guessing where they lie politically. There, it's much more difficult. There'll be people, sort of new friends I found that I'd make, and you think, come back, we'd have dinner with them, and come back with my wife, like, they're so nice. They really are nice people, really simpatico. Then 6 months later, we're having dinner with, Tyler and Skylar or whatever. And then they say something at dinner, and Sienna and I just look at each other and go, they're proper right. They're like super right of centre. It's really mixed. There's 2 sides to every coin, and the fact that you can't. It's a good thing that you can't immediately delineate. You go into a room full of people, you can't sort of go scuffer, white middle class, white middle class Labour voter like that. You don't know, and I think that encourages you to put yourself about, and there's a little bit more. It's difficult. It's harder to see who people are, and that's a good thing. You know, I think we do that as Britishers, as Englishers, and it's much more forgiving in that sense, and encouraging. You know, I was the example I always give when people say, "What's the difference between England and America?" The one I always give is if you've got a really nice car here, as soon as you park it, someone's going to drag a key across it and go, "You fucking twat." There, they'll go, "Hey, nice car, man," and they'll be behind, you know. Yeah. And there is that kind of. I miss it, you know. I definitely prefer living. I mean, love living.
Even in London.
Well, even in the London.
Give or take, Enzo.
Yeah, no, I get it. I mean, I don't. I mean, it's
like I love Rome, but I'll do 20 minutes out of Rome.
I see it as temporary. My heart is always in Bradford, you know, and I had a great time being brought up there, but I can't deny that when I was in my teens, I wanted to leave as quickly as I could. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you know, that's kind of, and I love visiting, absolutely love visiting, but I wouldn't want to live there.
Yeah, I think you appreciate it more when you go out, leave the country, see different cultures and stuff like that, and how it is. And you do it. Home is where the heart is. It's totally true.
It's difficult, isn't it? I mean, you know, how do you view your own career? You know, your own career. I mean, what you know? Okay, even if you've written down those goals very specifically, you've got a little. And I never wrote any of my goals down, but I sort of know what they are. I know what they were.
What were they?
To just work on American TV, be a series regular on an American TV show. That was a, you know, when I was a kid, that's all I, you know, even before, I mean, I've always been fascinated by American TV and American film. And then so I've always kind of been, it was only natural that as soon as I became an actor professional, it's like, right, I want to go to America. I want to be a series regular. I want to have my name on the back of a chair. It's really trite.
You did, didn't you?
I did on an Amazon show I did a few years ago, 2-3 years ago, called The Last Tycoon. And you know, I got there. We were working on. I was working at Paramount, which was like my favourite studio in all of LA.
Good parties.
Yeah, and you get, you know, what's the?
I think we're absolutely fantastically superb, yeah. But thank you so much, by the way. I don't, if you don't cut Mike from the Parcel Yard, thank you. The hospitality is superb, man. All right, thank you. So, man. Thank you.
So I'm obviously, as most anyone who's into film, I'm massively into The Godfather, and you know when Tom Hagen goes to Hollywood, you know, to speak, you know, to try and get Johnny Fontaine the role. It's the Paramount lot that they use. So in my mind, you know, that personified Hollywood and Los Angeles. So I'm doing this. You know, I'm going to got my name on the back of a chair. I'm on the Paramount lot. The studio, the soundstage that we're using was Citizen Kane was shot on it. You know, I mean, it's
getting to each other.
You are
pretty much. You're in. Yeah, it's like it's. Yeah.
And it's, you know, it's a great moment, you know, and you can't help but sort of like register that and take it in. But then it's what now? And what now? Yeah. Not that I'm saying that's the zenith of what anyone's ever achieved, but just for you, you know, for you personally, when you achieve something you set out to achieve, it's like, you know, when you're travelling there, hopefully, you think that when you arrive at that point, you'll be a more fulfilled person, maybe a better person, maybe more skilled, all these things, and you think it'll fundamentally change you for the good. Mm-hmm. And this is at least how I experienced it, you know. Got to that point, my kind of secret diary, this is what I want to do, this is my ambition, and I achieved it. It's like, well, I'm only still got like plenty of years left in my career, what do I do now? I'd not planned for anything after this, you know. Right. And it was a really odd, not sort of slightly lonely place actually, because my wife and family were back home in England. All sorts of dramas going on at home, and so yeah, it was odd, and that's, you know, it was a really interesting lesson. I mean, I don't know if you've ever had that. But
obviously, like, the last 10 years has been totally American-based for us. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. 3 albums out, and it's tour life. Do you know what I mean? It's tour life. Which is a kid from Bradford getting signed to Atlantic Records worldwide. It's like, whoa, but not England. They didn't want to touch us in England.
Well, you know.
But whatever, it's cool. So we're off. We just go. Do you know what I mean? And we're all down to a demo on CSI New York.
That's right.
Freaking demo, Enzo. And we were going to give it up. We were like, remember conversation? It was like, so we went on this mad journey. Like, the longest we were out there, we toured first time was 6 months. So we saw every single nut and cranny in that country, every single radio station stuff. When we do these little radio shows, hi, we're Scars on 45 doing breakfast shows and stuff. 6 months going, jumping on tours and stuff, then thinking you're gonna go home, but you're not gonna go home because you've got to stay out to work the single at radio. And we got to number 3.
That's extraordinary.
We got to number 3 with one of the songs, and it was like, bloody hell, wow. Yeah. And that was kind of, it'll never ever, and it's similar to your experience in America, it'll never leave you. I read a quote that you mentioned, you said it was like a packet of crisps and gaffer tape.
I mean, it's about kind of, stereotypes, isn't it? And how the British do conform to their own stereotype, at work, which is, it is that kind of get things done. There's a pride in getting things done no matter what. And it is a bit, it's a bit of a cheap crap, the crappy country, it's not glitzy, this country, it's not glamorous, but we've got a can-do, wartime mentality, and that's not, no matter how shitty the TV program, whether it's, I'm not going to mention them, it's not,
yeah, that's we're going to
no matter what the budget, not the shittiness, you get things done, and that's great, and I miss that, and again, I've said it so many times, as you work in the States and it's, what's for lunch today? Steak and lobster. But the biggest thing, though, is the unionization over there.
Right.
And just how that affects how people work. And it's sort of nuts.
People will probably watching this and probably hearing this, obviously on iTunes and stuff and Spotify. And you're like talking about union stuff. I know what you mean. Yeah. But the Joe public, explain how it works. Because people go, does he still get paid for that one then? Do you think? It's like music does when if you get played on the radio or you get an album sold, you get a royalty. How does it work? People who don't know how it works.
The way it affects you and I is that we get paid better and we get better food. And someone was telling me how it works on Broadway. So in theatre, the way the union works and kind of how it just has to be. And director. I'm paraphrasing. The director comes, and it's a lighting guy. He goes in and to the theatre, and the techies in the theatre say, "So, how do you want the lights to be for your show?" And he goes, takes a look at them, and he goes, "Oh, well, that one's perfect there. That one's actually, you know what? Just leave them exactly as they are. They're absolutely perfect." And they say, "No problem." They then proceed to take every single light down, unscrew them from the walls, for the theatre. Fill in the holes that they've made, replaster, and then paint. Take the lights back to the company that hires out the lights. Then go back and then drop them off, sign the lights back in, and then make a request to have them signed back out. And they go back to the theatre, and they repeat the process. They drill the lights in the wall exactly how they were. And the British lighting guy goes, "What'd you do that for?" I said, "That's how we make money."
Which way would you like to go next? I'm going to give you a choice. Well, I'm going to. Don't look at my nose.
It's like going into an audition and seeing who else.
It's just I don't write. I never write sentences. I write bullet points, and I find that kind of the best way because then I don't know which way it'll go, and that's what it is, and it's cool. I enjoy meeting people.
Well, obviously you do. Which is why
I don't know.
You get out and about it seems to me that when you're in Bradford. Mm-hmm. You are really, really busy. It's like you're presenting, you're talking to people, you're constantly meeting people. You've got a mic, you've always got a microphone, and chatting to people. It's brilliant. It's a lovely thing to see.
But Bradford as a city, I really want it to do well. I know people give it bad flack and stuff like that.
There's something. I mean, obviously we're biased, aren't we? So, but. I do genuine. I think there is something really genuine about Bradford. I mean, don't get me wrong; it's full of dickheads as well. but they're my kind of dickheads. sort of friends of mine who aren't from Bradford, and they come and visit, they really enjoy it. You know, I think there's something, again, sort of
unique. Is that
I think there is something. I think no, I don't think it's too strong at all. I don't have that big a problem with Leeds, but I don't really understand it as a place. Yeah. I don't feel as if, it has a voice, and in a way that, and maybe it's that. Look, Leeds is it's a big city, but you recognise the Liverpool voice, and I don't mean accent. I mean kind of, culturally what it's about and the identity. You'd say this, I'm talking about similar-sized cities. Glasgow, Edinburgh, Birmingham, Manchester. That Leeds doesn't, and it's not. I am having a go at Leeds. Dirty Leeds.
Get promoted though, it's fine. Sorry, I had to put that in. I'm sorry, I don't need to.
No, there's no such thing as Schadenfreude when it comes to Leeds.
Well, I seriously think since the Italian cafe shut down, that's where it just lost it. I really do. I think it was a childhood thing for me. The best breads, salads, breakfasts. The tomato sauce was unbelievable. It had a buzz about it. It had them like that football machine thing at pool table and stuff like that, and used to go down. So Italian cafe, Enzo's grandparents, correct?
That's right. It was my paternal grandparents.
So they owned the Italian cafe, and this cafe was just great. The Polish bread you used to use. And do you know who delivered the Polish bread to your cafe?
Go on.
My dad. And what happened when back in the days, before obviously I was on Earth, but he was delivering bread once, but put Whipsy roundabout at the top, and he had a little bump, and the bread went everywhere.
What's your dad's name?
Zbyszek Nowakowski.
That'll know.
The Italians, the Polish, Ukrainians, Slovakians and all that, and Yugoslavians, we all knew each other.
Yeah.
We did, we all knew each other. It was all a great vibe, wasn't it? Great buzz. John Street Market, you go with your grandparents down to John Street to get your kielbasa and your chleb.
Yeah. I remember that. But when I lived in Lidget Green, there was a Ukrainian club around the corner. Yeah, the Ukrainian club. So
still good, man. You should go for a beer.
Just off
Legram's Lane.
Just off Legram's Lane. Right. So I remember sort of going there with mum, all the time. My cousin had her 18th.
So yeah, the Italian cafe, amazing cafe, and it was kind of a pinnacle part of the Bradford, the culinary cuisine in Bradford. It was, wasn't it? It was like. It was cool, man. It was good food in there.
There was some great caps. So my dad, out of just moving forward, my dad, who obviously he worked and helped set up the cafe with my grandparents, and in the cafe, the guy, he was an Italian gentleman who supplied the pin table and the jukebox and all that kind of stuff, and he was selling his business. My dad wanted to buy it off him. He thought this is a good racket. So with a bit of help from his mum and dad, he bought his business off him. So then my dad went on to supply cafes and pubs and taxi offices all around Bradford, and then West Yorkshire, and then all around Yorkshire.
Old school.
With these machines. So when I went out with my dad when I was young, I saw a lot of these kind of cafes, like the Acropolis down in town. All the big cafes in
Candia. Well, that one.
Candia.
Candia.
Cousins. So my dad sort of supplied all these. So I saw a lot of it.
The Italian side. So you're full Italian.
Mum and
pretty
dad,
much.
yeah.
Cilenti.
So my dad.
From Roma, Lazio.
So Rome it's like Rome and Lazio. So Rome is in Lazio.
Yeah.
But my dad's parents are from Benevento, province of Benevento. So I'm from Naples.
Our family's Sora. That's where we're from.
So my mum's mum is from Isla del Liri, which is that's like 10k from Sora.
If we're related, it's been weird, wouldn't it? It'd be proper. You know what I mean? It's like.
So that's mum's side.
Yeah, that's mum's side. Yeah, Sora. Then they went to.
I know Sora. I've been to Sora like that.
I went last. I was trying to look for my great nonna's house, and I was like, I went with Mazia. I went with Mazia, and I was like. I went with
weird and freaky.
I went with Mazia. And do you know, like all housing Sora and stuff, and this was like January, bloody freezing, snow, mountains and stuff, and snow and stuff, and all rustic dogs and stuff. And we're looking for this bloody house, because I just want a picture to go, you know what I mean, I'm first grandson to see great, you know, that my auntie's childhood house, I wanted to see it, like, I love all that family stuff anyway. So anyway, they moved to Cinzano di Roma. which is based Cinsano,
That was
Castelcandon.
my Instagram handle. This is now too much.
No.
So that's what, on the east side of Rome, or?
No, it's not. It's spelled Genzano. Genzano, innit?
Oh, okay,
it's
right,
pronounced Chenz, but they call it
Genzano, yeah.
Yeah. So Genzano. So basically, they moved kind of inland, and it's only like 25 minutes from Rome, and we've been going there. Cousins, everyone's there. So, but then I've got family in Poland. That's my dad's side, and it's just wow. It's just a different. It's just So we'll go to Poland, like little village there where they've got chickens in back and that.
Well, that's my experience of Italy, you know.
Glodny, David Glodny? Yeah, they just got killed chicken in the back, that's it.
I do remember that. I remember watching it. It's horrified that my grandma and my great, just watching them just like with scissors. It's like open the scissors like that and just grabbing the chicken's neck. I must have been like 8 or 9, just going, oh my God. I've got one grandma left, and I'm going to see her on Saturday, which I'm
nice.
All 4 of us, which is kind of great.
Bradford.
No, she's in Italy. They moved back.
Oh, where are you going?
So she lives near Sora, Frosino, Isla del Liri. So it's.
So you'll fly to Rome and drive down. It's only like
Yeah.
through Frascati that way.
My sister's got a place in Tuscany. She lives in America. So.
She's got a place in Tuscany where she lives in America.
She lives in America. She lives in St. Louis, Missouri.
Oh, my girlfriend's from originally Kansas City.
Kansas City.
Yeah, on the 70. Then we got her.
Yeah, so
yeah. Oh, right.
So she comes over and spends. She's basically summers in Europe.
It's not bad, is it?
It's not a bad life, is it? So we go over. Obviously, she's got kids and they're similar age to my kids, so the cousins get to hang out and stuff.
That's cool.
So I'll go and see my nonna at the weekend. And also we were talking about the flip side is, we're still all enriched by it. There's a part where we're not there every summer and Easter as we used to be, but still enrich my life, and there's part of my daughter's life that's kind of being fed by that. They call my mum Nonna. Oh. And it's still about if I ask them if they want pasta.
You put some amazing pictures on Instagram.
Is Nonna sauce?
You can tell sauce. You can tell the sauce. You can tell the Italian sauce. Prime example. Check out Enzo's Instagram. Right, it's just the consistency, the colour, and you can tell it's been cooked al dente.
It's all good. I like it when people give me shit for it, and I'm like, going,
what? How can? It's the most beautiful thing you can ever. And
it's always Italians. It's always other Italians though who always go, this wasn't Enzo. Your tribe there is not so good. I mean, I don't just drop in on my grandma. I like to give her 4 or 5 months' notice, so she's got time to prepare a few things. Maybe a few polpette, which are little the meatballs, which are those are things. We're talking in terms of where we're relating to. We're talking about Italia. We're talking about kind of like being second generation. Bradford. These are all huge things we have in common. Bradford City. And you put all those together. Eventually, you are going to meet. You are going to be. All right, not necessarily sat down in the Parcel Yard. Could have been one of a number of places, but eventually you will sit down and kind of like discover that common ground, and then that's your stepping stone to kind of friendship and kind of all those great things. I don't know. I mean, I'm very reserved by nature. I'm very shy by nature, so I don't really know. I mean, obviously, that thing of treating people as well as you can. How you want to be treated. I don't know how typical I am of that Yorkshireness of kind of up. Maybe the grumpy tightness.
Game of Thrones, obviously, look, I'll be honest, I haven't watched it, I'm not going to lie. I've heard about it. I think one of the biggest shows in the last decade, probably, or maybe 5 years. You know what I think it is? It is. Do you know what? Put it out there. Breaking Bad was good.
I never watched Breaking Bad.
Right, well, there you go.
Never watched
well, that's
it.
fine. That's
I was struggling. I remember reading, I got sent the pilot for it.
Did you?
Yeah, I wasn't up for it.
Jesse, you would have been a good Jesse.
No. I was the other. What's his name?
Walter White?
Yeah.
No way.
It was with. There was no way on earth. There was no way on earth it was ever going to happen. But I remember saying to I wasn't working very much. I was doing not very well in America at that point. I just said to my manager, I was like, "Look, just send me everything. Just send me everything you've got, because I'd rather just be doing something. I would rather be actively reading and understanding what's happening in the world that I'm supposed to be part of, but I'm clearly not.
Wow.
And that script being sent to me, and by post in those days. I mean, obviously it was email existed, but and just going, wow, this is just knowing straight away from
just
reading.
By reading
it was so good. It's not because I've got a sixth sense about these things. I really don't. It's just, you could tell it was just astoundingly well written, and the Walter White role was just, it was just brilliant and heartbreaking and beautiful, and you could see where it could go. So it was, and Bryan Cranston, I was a huge fan of Malcolm in the Middle, hugely. So when I heard sort of in the trades that he got cast, it was like, yeah, I mean, this could really go, and it did. It really did. When people sort of not in my industry ask, one of the things I sort of say in terms of trying to fill people in, give them a bit of colour as to how it works for me on a day-to-day basis, and the idea of sort of auditioning and stuff like that. I generally say the hardest thing for us is to get the job. Yeah. Once you've got the job, it's easy because someone said, "You're great, we like you. Do that thing that we know you can do," because you've done the audition, you've given them a taste of what you're going to do, and they've gone, "Yeah, that's it." So you've been given a pass. People have said, we think you're worth this amount of money, we like you, blah, blah, blah. Whereas what I'm doing at the moment is the exception that proves the rule. I'm finding it really, really difficult.
Screen?
Theatre, doing the play.
Right.
Because it's just a bit of a stretch for me, and it feels, I've not done very much theatre just finished a play, but prior to that I'd not done one for 9 years. And I'm working with a very, 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 very accomplished cast and creative.
You mentioned.
Oh yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah, no, it's not. I'm doing.
Ask him?
Of course, you can always ask anything.
Do you think he'd be offended if I asked him?
Would he mind awfully if I asked? We did Present Laughter, which is an Old Coward play. Right. Run at the Old Vic, and it's with, and the lead role, which Noel Coward wrote for himself, has been played by Andrew Scott, who's most people will know as the sexy priest in Fleabag. Right. But he's an amazing actor and has been doing amazing work for years and years and years.
Let's take Game of Thrones, for example, right? You don't have, I mean, flipping heck, the A, B and C of it, like, how the frick, not being, it's like, it's an amazing thing to say you've been in, and it's...
Oh yeah, it's brilliant. I love doing it. I love doing it. It was one of... What made it really, really brilliant to be part of was it was really obvious straight away that everyone who was on that set was just really knew what they were doing. And you rise to their level. If you play with better musicians, that's the best thing for you to do if you want to improve. Right. Same as in football, in anything. And it was really apparent really quickly that in every department, it's like, what is this like? That was great. That was the joy of it. And when something is usually that big and that kind of commercial, you expect people to stop caring a little bit, and it becomes about the business. And the more commercial and successful something is, you expect, what usually happens is that the further away you get from the artistic sort of spark. But that really wasn't the case on that show, and we were encouraged by the director, by the producers, by the showrunners, and by the other actors who'd been it from day one. Mm-hmm. I did my stuff with Ian Glenn, who I worked with quite a few times, and Amelia Clark, and they were just like, yeah, go for it. They were so encouraging. So it was a really nice place to be. But ultimately, I'm the same as you. Didn't watch the show, not a fan of it, so I wasn't over. I mean, obviously, I was a bit nervous because I knew how big it was, but it just turned out to be really, really nice. But
you weren't a fan? So when you are in something, no matter how big or small, you then become a fan because obviously you're watching yourself. Does that make sense?
I was a fan of the process. I mean, I'm always trying. I can go on to any project, film, TV, play, whatever, and you have just, imagine you have an absolutely amazing time making it, writing it, devising it, and then the finished article is not necessarily what you hoped it would be, or it doesn't land very well, it doesn't resonate, it's not very well received. It makes no odds. You know, if you judge it by the result, then it strikes me as not a very accurate way of judging an experience. The safest way of doing it, for me, to sort of remain relatively sane, is just to judge it on, oh man, you know, me and Nova, we had a great chat, you know, we had a really good time, and that's it. You think of that, you know, and I was working with Paul, Dave, Serena, Andrea, blah blah blah, and we had, you know, it was just this togetherness we had, and this kind of bunker mentality we had, that we were going to just make the best thing we could possibly make. If I focus on that, then that seems to me to be an accurate meter of it, you know.
What was an average day like on Game of Thrones? Are you turned up, like, is it Monday to Friday?
Well, the thing with
because it's like, that's a lot. Think about pressure.
I mean, at that point, I'd you know, not.
Cheers, by the way.
Cheers, mate. It's a pleasure. It's not. Every now and again, I manage to, you know, one manages to get over themselves. You know, you just accidentally stop worrying about whether you're good enough or not, and sometimes your experience takes over. So at that point, you know, I've been doing it for sort of 20 years and used to being a small cog in a big machine. And I think I'm just used to going in and, like, no one giving a shit about what I do. No one giving a fuck about what I do. Oh, here's the lad who's in for 4 days or 3 days or whatever. And no one caring, and my costume being shitter than everyone else's, and my wig being shitter than everyone else's. I was expecting to have my usual kind of, you know, I mean, why would you give, you know, me that much time when you got Emilia Clarke to look after? You know, because, you know, she's higher up in the call sheet, and it just makes all the sense in the world that you concentrate on this character. And on that show, because of how brilliantly well run it was, I was given space and time and felt like, no, what do you think? Oh, wow. You're like, no, you don't ask me that question, I'll just do what you say. Hang on, this is a trick question. If I even answer, I'm going to get booted off. It's like, no, what do you think? What do you want to do? I'm like, okay, well, how about we do this? I'm like, sounds great, let's do it. So it wasn't hard, because they were so giving. The first sort of point of contact is after the audition. You know, when you get there, is usually hair and makeup, and if they're jolly, you might feel like, oh, you feel quite jolly, you know, and the only reason they're going to be jolly is if they're treated well and respected well by the producers. So it all trickles down. So if they're happy, and it's, you know, like 5 to 6 on a Tuesday morning in rainy Croatia, you're like, wow, I'm happy, you know, I'm here doing Game of Thrones, they're talking to me like they're, you know, happy to have me, so it's great.
You've been in some incredible stuff, though. Les Mis, Lufa. 24-hour party people. I want some stories. You must have some stories, please. You were at a pinnacle age. You want? Yeah, that was.
That was
Coogan.
Coogan was great.
Time making that film in 24-hour party people.
I didn't like it because I was playing Peter Savile, who I think is a genius, by the way, and Peter Savile was very nice about me afterwards, and so I actually approached him when I got cast. I'd done my first movie was with the same director, Michael Winterbottom, a movie called Wonderland, and then 2-3 years later, I just got a phone call asking me if I'd want to play Peter Savile, and I said yes, of course. I knew who Peter Savile was. I used to, when I worked in the Duff of St George, I used to come in and buy shoes off me a lot when I was supporting my acting, and then I contacted him, saying, you know, I'm playing you in the movie. Can we meet? And he was like, yeah, absolutely, fantastic. And then he just stopped returning my calls. And he'd sort of, I think, fallen out with the production or something. So I had nothing to go on. I mean, this is like, not pre-internet, but you couldn't look up, you couldn't work out, you couldn't look things up as quickly as you can now. So I didn't really know what I was doing. And ultimately, no one liked, you know, in the way the script worked, no one liked Peter Savile. Factory was like, he was always late. was nothing to do with the bands. So, and the way that film kind of worked, it was very, how do I put this? Sensitively method.
Yeah.
And so if you think of am I being kind of clear without being kind of clear?
Absolutely.
And so I wasn't involved in that. I didn't want to be involved in that from my character's point of view, and also from Enzo, the actor's point of view. I didn't want to. That's not how I work. I don't think.
Absolutely.
To play someone who's a convicted rapist, I don't think you have to rape anyone. Happy Mondays, I don't think you have to be when the camera's not rolling.
Yeah.
For me, and I found that I struggle with that as an as an actor at that age. So I didn't enjoy it, but that's part. That's that moment is very difficult. I felt kind of very inhibited. But then you zoom out and kind of I feel really privileged to have been part of that movie and sort of see it and understand it and be cast in it. Isn't it? Steve Coogan, Rob Brydon, Paddy Considine, Lenny James, and you Ralph Little. I'm a huge fan of huge fan of Gary Oldman. Someone I'd love to work with. I'd be very disappointed if I don't. And you look at some of his stuff; it's he's huge. Huge.
In Leon. Gary Oldman in that, it's like when he's cracking his neck and stuff.
But it's
and
brilliant.
it's
I remember
like,
watching it, just going, oh no, what are you doing? And then you watch it again, and you're like, oh no, it's so good. It's so good. And just that, and Jean Reno, and I was kind of in my most aesthete, pretentious French cineast kind of period. Jean Reno, yes, I remember him from Le Grand Bleu. And he's so cool, he's so kind of straight, and like it's like watching fucking ice melt slowly,
His voice in it.
Oh, he's amazing. And him and Oldman just pairing off. It's
cleaning his plants. In the leaf.
Matilde.
Your dad, your old man.
Yeah.
We have a chat about it, but you know what I mean. He's.
I love my old man.
He's cool. I've been obviously reading a few stuff on the back of a tandem from.
Yeah.
Countries and stuff like that, and areas and places and stuff like that, raising a shit ton of money for Parkinsons UK. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's true. It's very. It is true. I mean, it's sort of secondary. I don't think of that. I always kind of. So, Dad got diagnosed with Parkinson's about October 2012, and which is sort of it's absolutely. It's devastating, for all of us, especially him, especially Mum, because they live together. Not wishing to make light of it, but the one, and I don't want to make this about Parkinson's, but it does affect. It's like anything you're not aware of it, and then suddenly it comes into your life, and you're like, oh, fuck, this is a massive disease, and this is what it's about, and it affects this many people, and it's. So many people I know now, because it comes up in conversation, like, oh yeah, my mum's got it, or my uncle's got it, or my dad had it, or whatever. And, it's devastating disease. There's like at least 40 different symptoms. Everyone experiences it very differently. It's not a very sexy illness, so there's not a massive amount of funding. There's no funding from the government to find a cure. There is no cure. Then, like that, your dad's got it. And it's it's a neurological degenerative disease, and it's gonna affect his life majorly in a negative way, and by association and extension and through the love of affects the family. The one good thing about it though is that the most effective thing to treat all the symptoms of Parkinson's is exercise. So, and I'd always sort of done a bit of cycling with my dad. And what it meant is that when he got diagnosed, I was like, right, okay, so there's actually something I can do to sort of improve his life a little bit. Not his life, that's a bit too dramatic. His well-being. You know, his experience of Parkinson's is to encourage him and make it as easy as possible for him to exercise, which in practical terms means whenever I'm with him, we go out for a bike ride. So already that's great. So rather than just watching something happen to him and you just kind of go, "How you doing? How you doing?" It's like we can do something collectively together to make his experience and my mum's experience, because ultimately she's will be his carer, is his carer, you know, even though he's fine, he's great. And so you're actively doing something, and then you're out on the bike, and it's like, oh, well, might as well have a chat now. And I've got this theory about cycling with two blokes, is because you're side by side, it's easy to talk about stuff that's kind of like really sort of personal. Where when you're looking at each other like that, it turns like, oh, how you doing? You're all right, you know, and you sort of hide things away, you sort of skirt around the emotional issues. When you're both looking a bit blinkered, it's easier to kind of open up a bit. So there's that, and then, so we started riding more and more together, and then we got, the natural progression was let's try and do some mad rides and maybe raise some money, because we got in touch with Parkinsons UK, who are a brilliant charity who are absolutely involved hugely in funding, trying to find a cure for it. And then so it started off with us just climbing ridiculously big mountains 3 times in a day, volunteer. And then last year we did Land's End to John O'Groats, which is practically 1,000 miles in 9 days. I'm especially proud of Dad, you know, I mean, because the nature of it, I mean, I can do that ride relatively easy, and I know that I can put out a certain amount of power over a certain amount of time per day. I'm the constant. He isn't, you know. So if he's having a bad day because of Parkinson's, he's the one who's got to really, really, really dig deep. You know, he did it. He was amazing. He was amazing. And we talk about Bradford City and community and where we're from, and like word spread, and we had a brilliant, you know, James Mason and came and we did the night at Bradford City, and Ross, Brightside Developments,
there you go.
Peter Jackson came in.
Jacko's coming. My next week's Jacko, your favourite player.
I can't thank Peter enough, you know, for coming here. You know, he was a special guest that evening, and brought brought even more people in, and we raised an absolute shit ton of money that night. Wow. And it was brilliant. It was brilliant to be part of it. Yeah, the money was great. You know, we raised over 40 grand.
40 grand?
Yeah, well, you know, it's
that's unbelievable.
It's astounding. But that was such a lovely night. You know, it was about 150 of us. You know, and it's friends, it's family, it's extended work people, and you just go, we're all here for, you know, just to support one another.
Absolutely, that's great.
You know, it was blinding, actually, blinding night. There's no point telling stories about other actors if you don't name names. You know, it's like, I was with one person. No, I couldn't possibly tell you. You know, it's boring. You know, it makes me look like a cock. The actor I was most excited to work with, and most was Daniel Day-Lewis, and that experience was nothing but a lesson and an exercise in generosity and kindness from someone who is, I think, justified. If there's any actor, or if there's an echelon or a band of actors who can justify any fucking behaviour they want because they're so good and their work speaks for themselves, then he's in that band, I think, and I think most people would agree. And he was just unbelievably professional, and focused and thoughtful, and he just made you want to work super hard with him and for him, and he reciprocated. I mean, I did 2 days work with him. Day one, it's like 15 of us, and the camera's on him. So obviously, we're doing the best we can for him. Day two, we're just going, I wonder if the camera's on us. And you're thinking, I wonder if he'll even be there. You know, he was great yesterday, and you know, he comes in and he gives the second day when the camera isn't on him once, but he's got to be there all day, and he could be somewhere else, learning his lines or getting himself together for the next scene, because he's already done this scene. He's wrapped on this scene. He comes and he's off camera for every single one of the other actors and gives an almost identical level of performance in terms of intensity as he did the day before when the camera was on him, on his close-up. And I'm going, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. That's how you string a production together. And I felt absolutely, and I know we didn't see him when the camera wasn't rolling. And I sort of respected that. And then he was just he was around the corner. He wasn't in his trailer. He was just hiding behind a pillar. And I was like, I've got to go up to him. And I heard this stuff about him not breaking character, and I just went up to him and I just thought, well, rather than fuck him up, I'll because we were doing it in Italian accents. So I said, and I addressed him by his character's name. I can't remember what it was. I said, Mr. Signore, I just want to say it was an absolute pleasure working with you and to meet you. And he just took me and went, it was such a pleasure sparring with you. Thank you so much. And then and it was just like, oh, it was the most brilliant thing. It was the most and it's class, man.
Finish off with an icebreaker rather than start with one.
Oh, that's very good.
Is that all right with you?
I think that's a brilliant idea.
Just don't be afraid of just giving me one answer.
Right.
Like, you can elaborate, you can talk about stuff, you know what I mean? Unless you think, you know what, that's all you're getting, fella.
Okay, right.
So very simple, dog or cat?
Dog.
Is that cool? Yeah. You got a dog.
Got 2 cats.
But you've gone with dog.
I've gone with dog.
All right, cool. All right.
QED.
There you go. If you had the world's attention for 30 seconds, what would you say?
Oh my God, love one another.
Which part do you wish you'd played in any film and why? I would have totally cocked it up and been nowhere near as good, but Clouseau. All right. Clouseau. The greatest compliment I've ever been given was by Neil LaBute, a great American playwright, who said that I reminded him, as I was doing one of his plays, said that reminded him of a young Alan Arkin. So having a go at Clouseau and Arkin's Clouseau, I don't know, I'd love a go at that. What is in your fridge right now?
Some beef shin. Beef shin. So that's going to be. I'm going to do that slowly. I do like taking my time over my meats. I've got some of my mum's Italian stew, which is to be honest, it's pretty much the Italian Cafe's Italian stew recipe.
Get the crusty Polsky club. Have you got the bread?
No, I need someone to deliver. I need a supplier.
Dad, don't crash the van. All right.
Don't crash the van. Get it down to 816. So those are the 2 most important things, and the selection of fine wines and cheeses.
Nice.
A life of quality.
Vino Rosso.
Vino Rosso.
Yeah.
Vino Bianco.
Absolutely. If you were home on a rainy Sunday afternoon, what movie would you most want to see on television?
Something from Eddie Murphy's golden period, probably.
That's nice.
In terms of kind of making me excited, like going, or I might even sort of message a mate and going, fucking Trading Places is on.
Where do you not mind waiting?
The Italian Cafe.
If you could be any member of any TV sitcom family, which would it be?
Oh, okay, that's a sitcom family.
Sitcom, a sitcom individual. I think that's only fair.
I'm a not so secret, but I don't know how widely known this is. I was sort of, and still I'm a huge fan of Friends. I know that's not, there's a family element with Ross and Monica. I was a huge fan of that show. Apologies. But family, I feel sort of stepped on some.
Nice. We've got 4 left. All right.
Oh, these are good. I love these. These are great. These are good.
What would be the best thing about not having a sense of smell? I knew you'd like that one. I just knew it.
Heightened sense of, it would heighten my other senses. Heightened sense of taste.
If you could only speak one word today, what would you say?
It's a good question though, because you try to distill the overriding of emotion from the day. Help.
What's the wildest thing you've ever done in a hotel room?
I remember going mad in a hotel in Scotland, in Aberdeen, just losing my shit.
The Bradford on the Sea.
Just Bradford, is it really?
It is Bradford on the Sea, isn't it really?
Oh, it's rough as cock. It is rough. Just playing, it was the first play I ever did, but we're doing this like #1 tour of Scotland. So playing these huge barns, and it was like 2,500 people. So you basically shouting.
What were you doing, like comedy, like improv and stuff?
It was a light comedy. It was a romantic comedy. Ended in 99, I think, 99. And I've been doing this play on and off for about 6 months, and I just lost my shit and took a fire extinguisher to a. They closed the bar at like 11 o'clock. Remember those, the shutters on the bar? Yeah. I just got a fire extinguisher. There was like Meatloaf were playing in town that night as well, and they were in the same hotel, and they shut the bar at like 10:30 or 11, and we just ran out of drinks. I was a bit pissed. I just got a fire extinguisher and smashed it down and got drinks for everyone. That's not wild. That's just being a bit too into Keith Moon, like an absolute fucking stroker that I was. But yeah, this is rock and roll. This is what Keith Moon would do. Do this. Look at me, everyone. That's not wild. Just sad.
Can you cook?
I can.
Speciality?
The biggest spasm in the balls.
No.
One of the things I took, meat. That's what I enjoy doing. I remember being in
You got a smoker, haven't you?
I've got a Kamado Joe. I've got a ceramic. I built my own smoker when I was in the States. Got massively into barbecue and smoking meat when I was in the States.
What's the difference in the barbecue, American, UK?
My first barbecue I bought a grill from, what's their like kind of B&Q version, whatever it is. Home Depot. Yeah. Went to the Home Depot, and it was a good size, but I remember sort of got it going, got whatever shit was on there, and the lid was up, and my American friend just close the lid. I went, this is the lid's there for a reason, Enzo. I went, oh no, it's not raining. He went, no. And I just felt like and then I was like, keep shutting my lid, It's bright sunshine outside, I honestly thought a lid was to keep the rain off a barbie. That's how English I was. Last time I was in LA, the good thing was that there'd been they'd changed the law about food trucks. So loads of people were starting to do it in their garden. So these food truck people, it's sort of been outlawed, and then LA realised, actually, we've got loads of legal immigrants who are dependent on this to kind of buy their food at lunchtime, and who work in this. So we're going to repeal it. So then it sort of became legal to kind of sell food on the street, but the trucks have gone out, something like that. And they wanted to make it was a sort of anti-Trump movement. LA wanted to be seen as kind of pro-immigrant, and the Latinos especially, from Mexico and other North America, Central and South America, massive part of what's great about LA. So I just followed all these kind of Latino guys who were doing like barbecue in their front yards, like amazing.
Old school then.
Old school. Shout out to my friend Ragtop Fern, and you basically I'm cooking up on Saturday, and you put your order through on Instagram message.
In Los Angeles.
Even though it doesn't speak like that. Why don't I do that?
So you're making your meat.
I'm making my meat, so that's the thing.
You're making your meat, and 3 people you're inviting round this table for that meat.
Who wants to tasting my meat?
Yeah. Dead or alive, by the way.
Yeah. I really, because it's sort of, not nostalgic, but because we talked very much about, we talked a lot about our family and our relative backgrounds, and I'd like my granddads, my 2 granddads who aren't around. I hope, that's,
Did you meet them?
Yeah, I did,
Cool.
and So my mum's dad was the big City supporter, so he took me to my first match, and he had a cafe on Leeds Road, but Tony's cafe. He's called Gaetano, but everyone called him Tony, and he was a big City supporter. So Peter Jackson's family, because they're builders and stuff, weren't they?
Yeah.
So they used to come into his cafe. So that's how he sort of knew and got in City, I think, through the Jackson family. So him, Ragtop to bring out the brisket.
Yeah, so you got another place you've opened up. So another 2 people, I think, because Ragtop can do the catering.
I'm intrigued by Los Angeles and the music industry and how mental it was in the 70s. So kind of what was going on the Strip in the Rainbow Room and all that. I mean, that was a bit later, wasn't it? But John Bonham.
All right, okay.
Think of Bonzo and kind of hear about what it was like. Dean Martin rather than Sinatra, I think. Oh, Brando, I'd be kind of quite interested.
Yeah?
JFK.
2 granddads, JFK, yourself.
And Ragtop Fern.
Ragtop.
The barbecue man.
Absolutely barbecue man. I can smell the pot now. I can smell the pot. Raggers. Sear it a bit. Raggers. Shut the lid. No, Raggers.
It's about to rain.
It's about to rain, Raggers.
Lid on.
You know, lid on. I got taught this. All right. Like it's one question I always get asked. Oh, I can't sing, mate. Can't sing. Oh, never. You never get me singing. Can anyone act?
Not anyone can play music. I don't think. I mean, you can.
I disagree.
No, you can. No, you can, because that's how I play music. I can sort of play drums really badly, but it's not musical. Yeah. But I think anyone can act. Yeah, because if you can lie effectively, which we're all capable of doing that. Yeah. You know, we've all got that bone in us to kind of tell a good lie. If you can tell a good story, and I don't mean like every time you go out you are a great raconteur. It's like just have it in you to tell a good story. Then I think you can. The difficulty is doing it consistently over and over and over again. But I think anyone can act. Yeah. Well, play is an interesting case in point because some nights you can do a performance will feel like, God, you come off as it, and you go, what do we think? What do we think? And it's like, oh, it's a bit shit. But the audience loved it, you know. But you thought it was a bit shit because it didn't feel truthful to you. You're just saying the lines in a way that you expect someone who's angry to say, I'm so angry, I'm so angry. The next night you'll do it and you'll really feel that anger. It doesn't mean it's a better, it doesn't mean it's a better performance. It doesn't mean it lands better or more truthfully with the audience. It's sort of a bit. It's a dark art, it's a grey art. It's a dark art. It doesn't mean it's more difficult or sophisticated. It's just, it's just difficult to kind of. If it were easy to kind of like describe or work out how to do it, then I'd be great at every single performance. Or it would feel satisfying every performance. But it isn't. Sometimes you mean it, sometimes you don't. The only thing we were taught was good is a guy who directed maybe 2 episodes of Brookside ever in his life. Put a camera on some bloke. He went, can you swallow for me? And the guy went, yeah. I said, right, okay, swallow for me. He went, and watched his Adam's apple move up and down. So, okay, this is all you need to know about TV acting. After I've said this, at the end of this line, I want you to swallow. To the guys on the screen, went, your grandma's just died. And cut. Okay, he played it back. Oh, it's believable. Yeah, we're going to do the same scene. I'm going to say something different, but you're going to do the same thing after I stop talking. He goes, okay. You just won the lottery. And cut. Same thing, and like both are entirely believable. It just completely fucking worked. There's a great, one of my favourite directors I've ever worked with, called Billy Ray. I think he's on his Twitter. And he's, what do you call it at the top of your hand? You know,
like a caption thing.
You caption things like, I'm not talented enough to be unprepared. You know, it's just like kind of just fucking brilliant. You know, you just work. It is really strong. He's so great. He is such a great director. And yeah, you do that. You know, it's like you try and make it look. You know, that's a lovely thing to say. Thank you. You know, but you work really hard, I guess, to make it look almost effortless, like it does come off the cuff. But as easy as you get older, you care a bit more. I think, I don't know. I found that I was more into it as a way of life when I was younger.
Listen, I'll tell you now for a fact, obviously, I don't know, from a Bradford perspective in Yorkshire, I mean, from the same place and the same mentality, family backgrounds, heritage and stuff, I just hope you kind of carry on doing what you're doing. And
Thank you, well, same with you.
That's what I'm saying, I think it's cool, and I hope we kind of keep in touch and stuff, because I think we've got a nice first day in the office. But it's been cool. Thank you so much, and you're an absolute true gentleman. I'm just saying, look, it's like you work hard, and it's great that you're doing what you're doing, and you're enjoying it.
Very much so.
That's the main thing. So,
likewise.
Thank you so much. You're absolute super.
Pleasure.
YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify. Massive thanks to Yorkshire Brightside Development.
Yorkshire
Brightside. You should be just Bradford. I think Bradford should be it's going to be eco homes, which is great.
His
do you know what I mean?
His purview, he's kind of.
And everyone here at the old Parcel Yard, thank you so much.
You've been amazing.
Hospitality's been amazing, so thank you so much, and we'll see you soon. Thank you. Thanks, Enzo.
Pleasure. Thank you. That was easy, wasn't it?